Hi, my name's Anemone, and I wanted to make this video to talk about people who are faking DID online, this trend that, frankly, I don't think started with TikTok. I think it started with Tumblr. Because if you remember Tumblr, they were faking mental illness on there all the time back in the day, before it became the new MySpace. And it really sickens me to see people faking such a serious mental illness, or any mental illness, but especially one related to trauma and abuse. They make it look like their lives are great, they're so happy and there's no struggles, and that's why they often say they don't want to cure their supposed DID because they don't think it's harmful, which shows you they have no idea what it's like to live with DID. I don't have DID. I've had it as a working diagnosis in the past, so I do have some understanding about it. I also have severe dissociative episodes that were much worse when I was younger, that involved absolute memory blackouts and ending up from one place to another and no memory of how I got there or why I'm there, which was terrifying. It's terrifying to have memory blackouts, so to have DID must be extremely terrifying. Not that these people seem to struggle with those issues, really. It's one thing to be confused about what could be wrong with you and to seek help. It's another thing to sit there, sorry, my hair is gonna drive me crazy. It's one thing to be confused and to seek help and a professional opinion. It's another to sit there and put on a performance, which is exactly what these DID fakers do. Their Meet the Alter videos completely defy all the logic and understanding of how DID works. They don't seem to have ever had issues with a wall between them and the alters, which is how DID is when it's first diagnosed. And this phase can last a very, very long time. Years and years and years and years of constant therapy. And even then, there's a chance you may never get through that wall. Yeah, these people get through that wall like that. They get upset when you call them out on how they're making everything seem fun. They're making a severe mental illness seem fun. And they act like, what, I'm not allowed to have a good day? But if you've ever had a horrifically abusive childhood or experience, then you know that it's very hard to have a happy or a good day. And even then, it's probably going to be filled with pain somewhere during the day. I myself have borderline personality disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, chronic, severe depression. It's labeled differently by each doctor that puts it down. So I just say severe depression, sum it up. And generalized anxiety disorder. I'm also technically autistic, but I don't know how I feel about that, so I'm not going to talk about that. Especially with the current autism community that exists online, I don't really want to be a part of it. Growing up, having a very traumatic childhood, I know firsthand that these issues don't go away. And like many of the disorders I have, all of them, the anxiety, the borderline, the PTSD, the depression, they often coexist with DID and other dissociative disorders. They often come hand in hand. So DID is rarely ever just DID. And to portray it in such a fun, lighthearted way shows me that these people have no idea what it's like to go through childhood abuse. Because if they did, they would understand that child abuse shapes your understanding of the world and your understanding of yourself and how you socialize, how you interact. For example, I struggle with my issues every single day. There isn't, even on a good day, I'm struggling. There is no days of no struggles. That just doesn't happen. And I've been in therapy since I was 9, so I've been working hard for a very long time. And I'm still nowhere near a normal person. Nowhere near happy. Half the time I don't sleep, maybe an hour a night the last couple weeks. And this isn't on enough issue for me of having really severe insomnia, because I just lay there and panic and think of everything I've ever done wrong or everything that's ever been done to me, and it just plays on in my head and I can't make it stop, and it inflicts this pain that I can only describe as a physical pain from an emotional stimulus. It feels physically real. And it's torture. It's suffocating. It's torture. I feel like I want to have a freaking tantrum, but I'll look like a child. Back in the day, I probably would have just had a tantrum. And I never get to fall asleep because my brain won't stop tormenting me. And this is what it's really like to live with these kinds of issues and experiences. I don't trust people. I don't trust anybody. Even if you're close to me, I don't trust you. And everybody's aware of that. I make that very clear that it's not personal. I don't trust anybody, and you're not an exception, unfortunately. Every time I do anything, including leave the house, which used to be hard for me. I used to be agoraphobic, which is also true of a lot of people with DID. My first thought is, what's going to go wrong? How can it go wrong? Will I be able to handle when it goes wrong? And so that's how I think about everything I do, is the worst case scenario, what's going to happen to me? Because I feel like if I'm not prepared, I'm not safe. So I feel like I have to be on red alert all the time for everything that could possibly go wrong and everything that can possibly cause pain or hurt. There's nothing fun about any of these issues. I mean, with PTSD, there are certain words people can say, and I can't really stop people from saying what they want to say. There are certain words that set me off and trigger me, and then I feel my skin crawling, and I feel like I just want to rip it off. And people close to me, I'm willing to explain to them, I would like it if you avoided this word. And they try. But slip-ups happen, and I get triggered. Television might show a scene with the word, say the word, or show something with the word and trigger me. I can't even tell you the word. That's how much it affects me. I can't talk about it. Even in therapy, we had to do like first she had tried to get me to write it down, and then I thought I could. And then I couldn't write it. I couldn't get my hand to move. So we played like a synonym game. So she could try to guess what it was, which she did. Great. So I didn't have to say it. But that's what living with these kind of issues is really like. It's agonizing, it's torture, it's painful. There's nothing fun or lighthearted about it. And nobody is calling them out because they had a good day. That these people who are faking DID have good days. But it seems like all their days are good days, which is very unlikely for somebody whose childhood was so horrific it caused DID. They don't seem to be doing any work to fix themselves or responsibility taking for themselves, which is still part of the equation for everybody. They also don't seem to understand how DID actually works. Again, none of them seem to have the amnesia that is absolutely necessary to the concept of DID and to the diagnosis. They don't seem to they seem to switch whenever they want, when generally the triggers are, you have to have a trigger, you have to have something that upsets you, reminds you of something that made you feel unsafe, some type of sensation of threat, that suddenly an alter takes over to handle it for you because they're more equipped than you are. Alters are generally also more likely to imitate the host and try to be their own person. Their job is to protect the host. That is their only existence. That's their purpose. That's all they're there for. So if the host is feeling agitated, they will show up and they will still try to imitate the host, but they may have a different attitude. But they're not going to go into the closet, change their clothes, dye their hair, put on different makeup. They're not going to do that. It doesn't serve the purpose that they exist for. These DID fakers also seem to have alters that don't really fit how DID develops. DID usually develops by, okay, so let's say your father beat you when you were 6, and you were so terrified and felt so threatened and unsafe that, and you've been going through this for a long time, this is probably all you know, that your brain splits off and creates an alter. This alter is going to be a 6-year-old version of you. They're not going to be a Lolita version of you, not some cutesy anime character. They're going to be you when you were 6, frozen in time. Other alters may be the abuser. Notice most of these DID fakers never have an abuser-based alter. They don't have their actual abuser embodied in their system, which is one of the most common forms of alters that exists. Even though if you don't have DID, you won't understand why that makes sense. It would be weird to you that someone would embody their abuser like that, which shows you they definitely don't have DID because they don't understand that. People with DID probably don't even understand it. It's not a matter of sitting there and studying a book. It's just the way they are. It's the way things are for them. Real DID involves every time a switch happens, there's a huge amnesia. There's a huge memory gap. And that's very terrifying, okay? Nobody, I don't care who you are, if you suddenly lost hours of time, you're gonna be scared. Whether it's because you were blackout drunk, or maybe you're just tired and your brain's not focusing, whatever reason, nobody handles memory loss very well. Because it's scary, it's naturally scary. It's dangerous and it's threatening to your safety. So the fact these people don't even seem to care about the amnesia episodes or be bothered by them is very much a red flag that they're faking. And it just really disgusts me. Again, I can understand being confused, especially when you're young, like many of them are. Just being confused. That's fine. Say you think you have DID, but you don't know for sure, you're gonna see a professional, fine. But to sit there and put on a performance for a camera and start feeding all this information you're just kind of pulling out of your ass to a bunch of well-meaning viewers who are just trying to be enlightened and compassionate and understanding about DID, you're taking advantage of them. You're taking advantage of these good people who just want to better themselves, want to be kind, and feeding them a farce. And these people love to say that what they're doing doesn't hurt anybody with real DID, but it does. Because you're creating a stereotype, an image, a representation of this disorder for other people to look at and say, oh, that's what that looks like. And then when they meet people with DID, this is what they're going to expect. This is how they're going to look at them and think of them. And if you're giving the wrong impression, you're going to really negatively damage people with DID's lives. Severe mental disorders like DID or schizophrenia or bipolar, severe kinds of disorders, tend to be heavily stigmatized, and people tend to not be as compassionate in real life towards these issues as they are on the internet. The internet may make you think the world is such a kind place to mentally ill people, but if you have actual mental illness, then you know that's not how the world really is. It's how the internet is. In real life, people don't want anything to do with you because you have too much baggage, you're too difficult, you're too much, you're not normal enough. The moment you tell them you have a label, they run, especially true if you have BPD like I do. And you feel extremely isolated and alone, and nobody cares and nobody understands. It really grates on me. I wish this video was more informative, but I've been trying to make it over and over for like a few weeks now. So this is the video. This is what you're gonna get. So, it baffles me. I mean, I know evil people exist. I mean, I guess I don't like to look in the terms of good versus evil, but I know morally dubious people exist. It never ceases to surprise me. You know, even though I've been abused by these kinds of horrible people that exist in the world, whenever I meet them again in real life or meet people like that, I still think, how is this happening? How is this real? I mean, I can't deny it's real. I've lived these things. I know these people exist, but it never ceases to baffle me how awful some people can be. And I try to look at things from a compassionate perspective of why people do these things. But as far as faking something like DID, again, I have compassion for people who are just confused, but confused people don't film alters. First of all, how did you even learn these alters were there? It takes a long time of therapy to learn that they're even there. And you're just on the internet acting like you've known all along and this has never been an issue. And there's an actual DID patient with the papers to back it on the internet that they've been harassing for years. And brutally harassing. I mean, it's appalling and shows you how fake they really are, that they're going after a real patient. I see this in a lot of mental health communities. The fakers always go after people who are real, who really have these issues, because they don't want to accept reality for these disorders and what they actually look like. They want to give people the idea of their own version. They want to make up a version of it. Anything that contradicts what they're teaching you, they're going to try to shut that person down. Which should be very alarming to anybody who follows these people. I've noticed the DID faking pipeline is not ended. It's not dried up. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop. There's always more and more new people going on saying, hi, we're a system, which is automatically a red flag, because the first thing about real DID patients, they don't call themselves we. That there's no reason for them to call themselves a we. There's no reason, because only one person fronts at the same time. That's the reality. All right, so it's I, me. That's it. There's no we. For one thing, DID is a disorder of secrecy. For them to say we is to tell everyone around them, including their abusers, hey, guess what? I'm a system. I have DID. Exact opposite purpose that the disorder serves. They would never call themselves a we. It also defeats the purpose of trying to merge the alters back together. This isn't always the end result of therapy. I know that it's up to the therapist and the patient to figure out what the best path is for them. But most people with real DID generally want to put themselves back together, because one of the key things in therapy is acknowledging these alters are not their own people. They are parts of you. Parts. Therapists are very careful with their language not to encourage the patient to think these alters are their own individual identities and their own individual people. Because that's part of the problem. That's why DID is. You know, they have to put themselves back together. They have to acknowledge, at the very least, if they don't want to put themselves back together, they have to acknowledge that's you. That those alters are you. They're all you. They're not different people. And that's a huge part of the recovery process, which they seem to intentionally be contradicting. Again, I have no sympathy for anyone who fakes mental illness, period. But I especially have no sympathy for anyone who fakes child abuse related mental disorders. Some of them even going far as to say DID doesn't require trauma, which it does. That is the whole concept of the disorder. It does. And generally pretty horrific trauma. They don't usually have a dog alter, by the way, or an anime alter. Unless they were raised like a dog, there's no reason for a dog alter to exist. There's also there's no situation that would explain an anime alter. There's no trauma, there's no explanation for such a thing. That just does not happen in DID. That doesn't fit how it works. And it's unbelievably selfish. And it honestly, it personally pains me to see these people making a big joke, which is exactly what they're doing, and taking advantage of naive, innocent kids and teenagers watching them. Because they clearly have no idea what it's like to be abused. They have no idea how all-consuming abuse is. That it affects every little thing you do, every way you think, everything. There is nothing in your life that it doesn't touch. So to act like to act happy and fun, like everything's great every single day, you're obviously lying. And you obviously don't even understand the thing you're lying about. At the very least, if you're gonna put on a show, put on a convincing show. Do your research, which they clearly have not done, because most of them have zero real understanding of how legitimate DID works. And it drives me crazy. I know there are people who fake disorders. I've got multiple people in my family who faked cancer. So I know these people exist, and it never stops boggling my mind. That you could ever do something so selfish and harmful to another human being who's already gone through so much and not even care. To not even care. Hell, if I lied to someone, I'd be worrying about it for weeks, being like, God, I need to tell them the truth. God, I'm a horrible person. God, how could I do something like that? Like, I beat myself up over everything. That's why my brain taunts me every night with every mistake I've ever made. Because I feel guilty when I do bad things, and that's the way it should be. But apparently these people are some other species, because they can hurt people and not care. This video is really long, but I'm gonna try to wrap it up. I have evidence of my diagnosis I was gonna show, but I forgot to bring the binder in here. And yes, it's in a binder. I have all sorts of documents and stuff in it. But next video I make, I will be talking about my borderline personality disorder and how I feel about the stigma attached to it, as well as my opinion on quiet borderline, the concept, which, as you can tell by my eye roll here, I don't have a fond opinion of. So I'm gonna make a video like that, and I'll show my diagnostic proofs in that, because I want people to know that I'm not like them. I am not here to lie to you. I am not here to mislead you, take advantage of your sympathies or your good intentions. And I'm not here to mislead you. And I think you have the right to see proof for that in this world where decency seems to be going out the window. All right, so in my next video, I will show that. And I'm not really trying to be a YouTube big shot. That's why this video is so bland and boring and just me sitting here and talking. I don't really care about fame or attention. Frankly, I think that would give me panic attacks. But I do want to be able to share what I think and my opinions and feelings and my experiences with people. And I will try to always do them in a respectful and non-triggering manner as much as I can. I just want to be able to be a voice out there, a voice against all the nonsense, a voice of clarity in a world that's becoming crazy. And if you like that, or you like this video, or you relate and you want to see more from me, go ahead and like and subscribe. But I don't know how regularly I'll post. It's, my life is, I have mental health issues. I'm disabled. So luckily I don't work, but I have my bad days, or most days. And I'm not trying to be anything fancy. I'm just trying to just be a voice of reason. That is all I want to do. Because I know growing up, when I saw kind of nonsense like this, or even the nonsense in my own home, and I looked to other people, to see, do you think this is okay? Do you think what's happening to me is okay? And people just pretended not to hear. And it always hurt. It hurt that I couldn't find anyone with the guts to be truthful or to do the right thing, whether on the internet or in real life. It seems like justice doesn't seem to exist anymore. No one cares about right or wrong anymore. And it's always bothered me. And it still bothers me. Like, I'm not a judgmental person. I mean, I don't care what you do in the privacy of your own home. No one's getting hurt. Then frankly, I don't care. But a lot of these things are hurting people. And that's why I care. I don't think anyone should be allowed to cause harm to another human being and get away with it. And this is coming from someone who's forgiven her abusers. I have forgiven most of my abusers. There's a couple that I'm trying to, but it's a little more of a difficult thing. And I guess it's difficult because there's less for me to gain in a relationship with them to begin with. But I try to be a compassionate and understanding person. And but this is just one of those things I feel like somebody should say something. And I know there are voices out there, but there's not enough. There's not enough people out there preaching the truth. And that's startling. And I just want to be another voice that's trying to help and share real life experiences with real mental disorders and help steer the youth who are watching these videos online in the right direction instead of the messed up TikTok direction. If possible. And that's the end of my video. Bye.